Hi, everybody. I am going to pick up on some of what Amber said and nicely foreshadowed for you and talk a little bit about how you can integrate replicated into the things you do within your revenue team. And that can be have an impact really on sales, marketing, SDRs, SEs, RevOps, accounting, etc. So we'll look at a couple slides. We'll see a little software. Let's give it a go here. One thing that I'm really sort of like created as sort of the foundational thought about this is it's great to give people access to your software, right? Self-service trials, they're amazing. They get access to your software, they try it out, they start to form their opinion without your team having to spend any time with them. I firmly believe that's a positive thing. I know some people want to control the narrative a little bit more and get a little nervous by it, but I firmly believe that's a positive thing. And mainly because I, as someone who has sort of, grown up in the industry as a builder, if I don't see that try button or a link to GitHub, I move along. Frankly, I don't want to talk to sales. That's not the call to action that I'm interested in. But sometimes those trials can just feel like a black hole, right? People get your software and you start a drip campaign and they don't respond to anything that you send them. They maybe even unsubscribe and you have no idea what's going on until either they disappear or randomly, like 6 months later, someone from that company calls you up and says, "Hey, I tried your stuff and I'm interested in talking to your team a little bit more." What we're going to do is talk a little bit about how you can capture that information and bring it into a system, your CRM system, using Salesforce as the example here today. Now, some of you may be scratching your heads and wondering and thinking, wait, hasn't he talked about this before? And sure enough, in 2024, in Replicon for our third quarter, I actually talked about integrating these systems together. And I could not believe how much had changed and how differently we pulled these things together. And it's not just the things that Amber's talking about today with the notifications and how tightly that can make a bi-directional connection between the two systems, but also we didn't have an enterprise portal. We had a different way of doing installation. We weren't really exposing certain pieces of what was happening with your customers. So all these things have come together to make this an even more powerful tool for bringing our platform and Salesforce together, even a more powerful tool. That's not what was supposed to happen. So today, rather than 2024, we can have this bi-directional connection where the replicated platform, through the notifications that Amber shared, can make things happen on the Salesforce platform, right? You can have webhooks going across in response to notifications, and then you can create, enrich, etc., your CRM data based on that. From the Salesforce side, you can call into the APIs from the vendor portal, and you can start to, kind of reflect sort of what's going on in your business into the replicated platform. So, for example, if you have a customer who's signed up for a trial sign up, and you sell them something, and you're going to want to make sure that gets converted to a paid license, and you don't really want to go to replicated for that. That's the type of story that we talked about the last time. The part of the story that's new is that we know about that trial customer in the first place in Salesforce because they request it from the enterprise portal, and then the notification fires, the webhook brings events over into Salesforce, and then we create a lead for that new trial. That customer prospect logs into the enterprise portal. We can convert it automatically into an account, an opportunity to contact, right? The ACO combination, if you're into Salesforce jargon. We can track their instances in Salesforce. So you can look at their account and you see what's going on with their instances. We can do different things when they download, et cetera. So these are all some great things that we can sort of link together and make that system so that the people who need to think about it from the perspective of delivering the software, et cetera, they have the replicated vendor portal, and the people who are in the more revenue oriented teams, they have the system that they're always in. They have Salesforce. Oh. So some of the notifications that Amber talked about, and we're going to go into a demo starting with this point, were some of the ones about as they come into the door. They sign up for the vendor portal, excuse me, for the enterprise portal for your free trial, and then they log in. So two different steps in our flow, right? There's a pending sign up, and then the customer gets created when they do sign up. And then we also know that when they've logged in, that the customer has joined the enterprise portal. So there's three different events that can have different things that you can see. We can create the Salesforce lead, track where it came from, track its status. We can enrich it with information about the customer that gets created when they are logging in, and we can enrich it. We can enrich what you're seeing about them when they log in. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to go over to the Slacker News site here. Oops, that's what we're going to get when we get the trial. And I'm going to click the try Slacker News, very prominent call to action here to try out Slacker News. And I'm going to say, I'm going to pick a company name. Let's use Git Guardian, since they were nice enough to join us today and share that awesome story. I'll put an email on there. Now, so far, kind of what you're used to seeing, right? If you've seen me demonstrate Replicated, you've seen me bring you through this flow before, and you've seen me potentially zip back over into the vendor portal and show that there's some information that you're able to see in the vendor portal about what's happening here. Now let's go over to Salesforce. And I'm going to be able to see, oh, look at that. I logged out of Salesforce. That's my Salesforce. And a very slow login to Okay, wow, I'm doing great this morning.
You are doing great. Password's fault.
All right, so let me pull this off onto the other screen so I can look at it and see what I'm typing wrong. We get into Salesforce, and we're going to start seeing that lead got created. Okay, let me try this one more time. I'm going to slow myself down a little bit once this comes up. Oh, there we go. I sign in. Don't ever say no to the two-factor. Don't follow my lead there. Forgive the pun. And I have a lead from Git Guardian. You see that it's Chuck. So now I can start tracking what's going on with Chuck. So let's go back over to Chuck's browser and log in. I come over to Salesforce and I refresh that. You're going to see I don't have a lead anymore because they've converted, because they've logged in. That's something that to me that says there's some intention here. I want to treat them as an opportunity. And if I go into the vendor portal and I come to notifications, I put a pretty broad one here. Amber did a great job explaining of all the ways you can tighten this down, but I decided to make it very broad for the events that I was interested in and then do some filtering on the Salesforce side. But you can see three different things went over to Salesforce, right? The first one said that this customer signed up. The next one said that we created a customer in the replicated platform. And the next one confirmed that they logged into the enterprise portal. That allowed us to take that lead and convert it into a contact attached to a company named Git Guardian, and to create an opportunity for Git Guardian to buy our product. So this is the first loop, right? They're in the door now. They're in the system. I can start paying attention to what's happening. After that, I can start to watch them grow. If they add more users, I can see that. Great signal, right? They're bringing more people into it. They can start, if they start downloading releases, I can see that. Great signal. They're interacting with my software. They create an instance, they upgrade that instance, right? all signals that they're getting more engaged. They're trying out different things that they're able to do with the platform. And I can start creating information about that in Salesforce so that the team can see what's going on, what's happening. They have an instance up, they upgraded it. So now I know what version they're on, the things like that. The same things that you see in the vendor portal are now carried over into Salesforce as these things happen. Now, I'm not going to bring you through the whole install here, so we're not going to see all of these records happening. But then the other one I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go through the full trial cycle here because though I can be long-winded, I cannot fill the 30 days of the trial. And you don't want to sit here for that anyway. But as the license starts to expire, we're going to also get an alert that's happening, or we're getting an alert that has expired and they're still trying to get access to the software. Both of these paths are great, right? It helps us to convert the customer, helps us also to keep them out if they're not interested in moving forward with us. And then, of course, there's that moment of proof. You've done your work, you've done your selling, they love your software, they're ready to buy it, they're ready to buy as much of it as you'll sell them. You need to track evidence. Amber did a great job of referring to 606 and explaining the different ways that people might want to show the evidence that the customer took delivery. And it really is going to be different based on your company and your auditors, what you want to do. So we're giving you multiple different events that you can use to record that. You pick which one applies to your policy. So let's see this happen. Let's pop over to Salesforce again. And if you saw my previous talk, you're going to know that some magic happens when I move it along to this stage, especially when I forget to add the products first. So let's just say these customers, they're going all in. They're going to buy the air gap version of Slacker News. They're going to buy one of them. I'll save that. And then I'll pop them back into that stage. And that's going to create an order, and it's going to create a contract. So we're going to look at our orders. Now we have an order from Get Guardian. We're going to click into that order. And we're going to go to the contract, and we're going to probably attach some real paperwork and do that. And then we're going to say they approved it. I have no idea what's up with this development version of Salesforce here, but it has draft as the last status. So that's interesting. Anyway, so now you can see I've activated my contract, which means that my order has also activated because of the automation that I put in here. And now let's go over to the vendor portal and look at our customer. We're going to look at Slacker News here. We're going to look at that customer for Get Guardian. And we're going to see that now they have a paid license rather than a trial license. And when we actually even get in here a little bit more, we can see the Salesforce IDs here, right? So this is that sort of Salesforce-driven end of that integration. Now I'm going to go back over as the customer, and I'm going to go through the install here. I'm going to hit continue. Give this instance a nickname. And I'm going to go over to my shell and start the download. So now there's another event that I can get notified about. And I don't actually remember if this happens beginning or end here. So I'm going to watch it follow through and get to a good status. And now I've got that. We'll come over to Salesforce. We'll look at our order here. We're going to refresh that order. And we'll see my license is attached. And if I can go to detail, I have the license ID and I have an activation date that basically shows when the software was downloaded. So there's my evidence of what happened here in my Salesforce system. So when I'm trying to show that revenue recognition, I've got that here, right here in my system of record for all of my revenue operations. we go back over to the vendor portal, we can see in notifications the full cycle of what happened here. We went through the sign up, the customer got updated, right? We actually have a check on Salesforce, so this doesn't come down and then trigger a loop. And then the asset got downloaded. So we've been able to get notified of all these events that were critical to our process and to carry those events forward into the critical system for tracking the revenue process. So here's the cheat sheet of what I did, right? I got a bunch of notification events. I affect some Salesforce objects. There's a state change for them. And then, of course, here's where I did it. It's over in my GitHub. It has a tag for how it used to work if you've been using it before and you want to go back and compare the two. And it has, sort of what's on main right now is what you just saw today. There's a couple more events that I'm not handling right now that just because I wasn't going to be showing them today, that over the next days and weeks, I'll be dropping those in there. There's a pretty active issue tracker in GitHub right now on this, and you'll see those turning into PRs and getting closed and getting merged and some tags, et cetera, coming up. All right. So thanks, everybody. And let's head back to Kaylee. Thank you, Kaylee.
Awesome. Yeah, Chuck, I remember your talk from 2024. Amazing it's been that long. And what you just showed looks like magic.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
incredible how much has changed.
I would have told you I did it a couple months ago if you asked me. It's just sort of, people have still been asking about this integration, and we've been using that to show them a reference implementation. And there's a lot more I wanted to happen there. And Amber and our product team and all of our engineers have done a great job in letting me get there.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And thank you for the cheat sheet at the end. I was going to ask you about that, but you already had it prepared. So just ways that people can recreate this themselves without too
Yep.
much overhead.
Yeah, the GitHub repository. It is reusable for the way that I decided this workflow should go, and for the structure that the sort of Salesforce development environments have. Invariably, when it comes to Salesforce, you're going to do your own adaptation because every Salesforce is different. I've worked now with too many of them and had to learn all of their quirks. It's a great reference implementation, though, for figuring out how to integrate on your own, for showing to your RevOps team for what you're expecting to see. And in fact, we have a contractor that we work with who's going to watch this video later today. If you want help adapting it to your Salesforce, I'm sure she would take a call.
And she is amazing. So
She
if
is
anyone
amazing.
wants her info, let us know. And on that note, even if you're not using Salesforce, I imagine this works with any CRM. So
Absolutely, it would. Yeah, if you're using ADIO, you're using HubSpot, all of them have ways of receiving these events.